The audience to Chicago in the field of ekphrastic writing, which is writing about art. So she knows something about the relationship between artwork and writing or poetry. And she's going to read from Coney Island of the Mind by Lawrence Ferlinghetti. A very important book of poetry, one of the most influential books of poetry in our lifetime. Well, I'm 82 in my lifetime, for sure. I prepared something that I'm going to read because otherwise I won't say everything I want to say. Thanks to Andrea for allowing us to show my photographs and have this reception. This is a wonderful bookshop consistent with the example set by City Light Books. That's Ferlinghetti's bookshop that was founded in '53 in San Francisco, which is one of the places that made it possible for us to have the publication of many things, many books that were being banned and censored. He went to court and won a case over the publication and distribution of Allen Ginsberg's Howl, and that led to really opening the floodgates and kind of banning the books. My job right now is to introduce my daughter Maria, who is going to read from Lawrence Ferlinghetti's The Coney Island of the Mind, and tell you a little bit about the quotes that I selected to go with each photo. I'm thrilled to be working with Maria on this project. It really has been so much fun. First, I'd like to let you know that I've been aware of Ferlinghetti's book since it was written in the 1950s. To me, it represented the counterculture, that is, the culture that is for knowledge and thinking, but is against book banning and censorship. Because anytime I saw this book in the bookshop, I knew that it must be a good shop, and that the shop was a portal into another way of thinking. That the shop would have many books that represented out-of-the-box thinking, and that being there was a wormhole to get away from the humdrum of regular life. So be it Coney Island or Greenwich Village or the left bank, there is a place and there is a state of mind. Browsers is like that. It has a Pacific Northwest readers, thinkers, doers vibe that is as transporting as Dr. Strange's telephone box. Maria received her MFA from the School of the Art Institute in Chicago. She studied at Praxis, the art of writing about art. She's a painter and writer, but makes a living training horses and horse riders. She manages Flicker Farms in Redmond, but has never forgotten her love of the arts. I leave you in the capable hands of Maria. Now she's going to guide you around as she talks about different photographs and reads the poetry associated with them.
Thank you. I've always been drawn to the confluence of visual art and literary art, how the current changes when one flows into the other. When poetry is derived from a piece of visual art, it is called ekphrastic poetry. And while there isn't an official name for visual art inspired by poetry, reverse ekphrasis definitely exists. Frank's Coney Island photographs might not be direct reverse ekphrasis, but Ferlinghetti has been buzzing in the back of Frank's mind since Frank first discovered him. This background influence is evident in how Ferlinghetti's blend of nostalgia, whimsy, and stark political commentary is reflected in Frank's photographs. Each powerful in their own regard, when paired together, Ferlinghetti's words, our minds are drawn deeper into the layers that exist in each photograph, allowing us to dive below the surface of the water and submerge ourselves in the rich visual language of the image. Similarly, Frank's photographs provide us with an anchor so we don't get swept away by the riptide of Ferlinghetti's swirling words. I've chosen 5 poems to read to you today. They were written in the 1950s, but many of them still feel very relevant, which speaks both to the timeless quality of Ferlinghetti's writing, but also to the pathetic amount of progress our country has made in the last 75 years. Please follow me and look at the photographs as I read the poems, and pay attention to how, going over here first, how the poem changes how you see the image. So the first one we're going to read is this image here called Astroland. These poems, not a lot of them do not have type. Can everybody hear me? I can be louder. A lot of these poems do not have titles, so this is poem number 4. In a surrealist year of sandwich men and sunbathers, dead sunflowers and live telephones, housebroken politicos with party whips performed as usual in the rings of their sawdust circuses, where tumblers and human cannonballs filled the air like cries when some cool clown pressed an inedible mushroom button and an inaudible Sunday bomb fell down, catching the president at his prayers on the 19th green. Oh, it was a spring of fir leaves and cobalt flowers when Cadillacs fell through the trees like rain, drowning the meadows with madness, while out of every imitation cloud dropped myriad wingless crowds of nutless Nagasaki survivors, and lost teacups full of our ashes floated by. The poem has us blasting off on the rocket ship into the surrealist year. The statue holding the burger is the sandwich man, the clown, and the president all rolled into one. Especially, that's more relevant now than it was in 1950. And honestly, the surrealist year is the perfect way to describe any of the recent years, any of the years in recent history. And then we're going to move over to this one. And this is poem number 11. The world is a beautiful place to be born into if you don't mind happiness not always being so very much fun. If you don't mind a touch of hell now and then, just when everything is fine, because even in heaven, they don't sing all the time. The world is a beautiful place to be born into if you don't mind some people dying all the time, or maybe only starving some of the time, which isn't half so bad if it isn't you. Oh, the world is a beautiful place to be born into if you don't mind a few dead minds in higher places, or a bomb or two now and then in your upturned faces, or other such improprieties as our name brand society is prey to, with its men of distinction and its men of extinction and its priests and other patrolmen and its various segregations and congressional investigations and other conservations that our fool flesh is heir to. Yes, the world is a beautiful place of all for a lot of such things as making the fun scene and making the love scene and making the sad scene and singing low songs and having inspirations and walking around and looking at everything and smelling flowers and goosing statues and even thinking and kissing people and making babies and wearing pants and waving hats and dancing and going swimming in rivers on picnics in the middle of summer and just generally living it up. Yes, but then right in the middle of it comes the smiling mortician. Wow. I think that when this poem is read with this photograph, it really changes. I think this poem changes how we see the photograph quite a bit. Because at first you're just like, this is a lovely photograph. It's Boardwalk in June. And you're like, yeah, this is a beautiful summer day, people hanging out. But then all of a sudden with these words, you start to feel the touch of hell. You start to feel the sun's a little too hot. You're a little too sweaty. And then the wonder wheel slowly morphs into the smiling mortician right all in the middle of it. Now we're gonna shift over up here to this photograph, which is one of my favorite ones in the show. And this is poem number 27. Peacocks walked under the night trees in the lost moonlight when I went out looking for love that night. A ring dove cooed in a cove, a cloche told twice, once for birth and once for death of love that night. This is not just one of my favorite photographs of the group, but it's also one of my favorite pairings of the quote and the photo, because at first you look at it and you're like, okay, where's the peacock? Like, where's the correlation between the two? But then once you get past the literal imagery, you see that the peacock is reflected in the architectural geometry of the photo. The tail feathers are the curve of the roller coaster, and the peacock's head and plumage is the parachute jump in the background. Suddenly, the entire photograph is the peacock. We see a single man standing to the left of the shot. Perhaps he is the subject of the poem, the one looking for love. The children in the middle mirror the toll of birth, representing hope, while the ominous dark clouds in the background create the drama of death. Just like Ferlinghetti's poem, it starts with the gentle image of the peacock in the trees and ends with the death of love. We feel the push and pull of the levity of the setting of the amusement park and the intensity of the lighting in the photo. And now we're gonna go back here. There's also that same photo here in color, which we could go on about how the color changes all of that, which I just said. But we're not going to right now. Okay. This is number 14. This is one of my favorite, probably my second favorite poem in this book. Don't let that horse eat that violin, cried Chagall's mother, but he kept right on painting and became famous and kept on painting the horse with the violin in mouth. And when he finally finished it, he jumped up upon the horse and rode away, waving the violin. And then, with a low bow, gave it to the first naked nude he ran across, and there were no strings attached. This pairing is interesting because the poem is an ekphrastic poem in its own right, derived from Chagall's painting, Horse with a Violin in Its Mouth, which, if you don't know, depicts a man and a woman kissing upon a horse. The horse is holding a violin in its mouth. The woman's arm is raised, and the man has his arms around her waist. Frank's photograph does not include any of these elements, but certainly recalls the vivid colors of a Chagall painting. The photo blends elements of Cubism and Surrealism, just as Chagall's paintings do. We can almost picture Chagall riding through the gates of the Scream Zone atop his horse, wielding his violin. And then the last one, this is my absolute favorite poem in the book. It's probably the most famous poem of the book. And I'm not going to say anything about this poem and this photograph because I honestly think that the poem speaks for itself, the photograph speaks for itself. I don't think any additional commentary is necessary. This is I Am Waiting. I am waiting for my case to come up, and I am waiting for a rebirth of wonder, and I am waiting for someone to really discover America and wail. And I am waiting for the discovery of a new symbolic Western frontier, and I am waiting for the American eagle to really spread its wings and straighten up and fly right. And I am waiting for the age of anxiety to drop dead, and I am waiting for the war to be fought, which will make the world safe for anarchy. And I am waiting for the final withering away of all governments, and I am perpetually awaiting a rebirth of wonder. I am waiting for the second coming, and I am waiting for a religious revival to sweep through the state of Arizona, and I am waiting for the grapes of wrath to be stored, and I am waiting for them to prove that God is really American, and I am seriously waiting for Billy Graham and Elvis Presley to exchange roles seriously. And I am waiting to see God on television piped onto church altars if they can only find the right channel to tune in on. And I am waiting for the Last Supper to be served again with a strange new appetizer, and I am perpetually awaiting a rebirth of wonder. I am waiting for my number to be called, and I am waiting for the living end, and I am waiting for Dad to come home, his pockets full of irradiated silver dollars, and I am waiting for the atomic tests to end, and I am waiting happily for things to get much worse before they improve, and I am waiting for the Salvation Army to take over, and I am waiting for the human crowd to wander off a cliff somewhere, clutching his atomic umbrella, and I am waiting for Ike to act, and I am waiting for the meek to be blessed and inherit the earth without taxes, and I am waiting for forests and animals to reclaim the earth as theirs, and I am waiting for a way to be devised to destroy all nationalisms without killing anybody, and I am waiting for linnets and planets to fall like rain, and I am waiting for lovers and weepers to lie down together again in a new rebirth of wonder. I am waiting for the great divide to be crossed, and I am anxiously waiting for the secret of eternal life to be discovered by an obscure general practitioner and save me forever from certain death. And I am waiting for life to begin, and I am waiting for the storms of life to be over, and I am waiting to set sail for happiness. And I am waiting for a reconstructed Mayflower to reach America with its picture stories and TV rights sold in advance to the natives. And I am waiting for the lost music to sound again in the lost continent in a new rebirth of wonder. I am waiting for the day that maketh all things clear, and I am waiting for Old Man River to just stop rolling along past the country club, and I am waiting for the deepest South to stop reconstructing itself in its own image, and I am waiting for a sweet desegregation chariot to swing low and carry me back to Old Virginia, and I am waiting for Old Virginia to discover just why darkies are born, and I am waiting for God to look out from Lookout Mountain and see the ode to the Confederate dead as a real farce, and I am awaiting retribution for what America did to Tom Sawyer, and I am perpetually awaiting a rebirth of wonder. I am waiting for Tom Swift to grow up, and I am waiting for the American boy to take off Beauty's clothes and get on top of her, and I am waiting for Alice in Wonderland to retransmit to me her total dream of innocence, and I am waiting for Child Roland to come to the final darkest tower, and I am waiting for Aphrodite to grow live arms at a final disarmament conference in a new rebirth of wonder. I am waiting to get some imitations of more immortality by recollecting my early childhood, and I am waiting for the green mornings to come again, youth's dumb green fields to come back again, and I am waiting for some strains of unpremeditated art to shake my typewriter, and I am waiting to write the great indelible poem, and I am waiting for the last long careless rapture, and I am perpetually waiting for the lovers on the Grecian urn to catch each other at last and embrace, and I am awaiting perpetually and forever a renaissance of wonder. Let's give a hand to Frank for all of his beautiful photographs. All right, go back to drinking and mingling now.
That was terrific. It was great. It was great.
Well done.
Thank you.